Hi there, I'm Josh Finn from J&H Aerospace, and about 2 years ago we were sent some kits from Ripmax under the Keelcraft brand, and Hope built out the Senator, flight footage of all that went up, the full builds and whatnot, but the plane that was sent for me has been languishing on a shelf, which is terrible. So I needed a project, and here's a nice project. I lost my previous Wakefield model, so I'm going to build another one. I'm going to rebuild that particular Wakefield model as well, but this one comes first. So I'm not gonna go into the details that we went with Hope's airplane. The Senator, I'm going to go much broader. And the reason for that is I'm just going to try to use this as an overview for some techniques for how you would approach building a traditional balsa stick and tissue airplane. So, instructions, we'll set those aside. Instructions are roughly the same as they were for the Senator, so no worries there. Some tissue included. It is all white windshield material, set of plans, we'll get those going in a minute. Plastic propeller, we're actually not going to, well, I may show some flight footage with this, and then we're going to switch over to a proper propeller, which y'all are going to be in for a treat there, because we're going to do propellers upright. Same with wheels, rubber, bearing, the bearing we'll use, bearing's good. The rest of it, I'm going to substitute in my own goodies, so y'all can see an approach for that. I honestly think this kit is missing the actual nose block, so we'll check back in on that. I'm not really worried if it is. I've got lots of wood around to deal with that, and we'll show some ways. Actually, it'll probably be a good opportunity to show you how to do a nose block up the correct way. We may end up in the attic with a drill press. Lots of strip wood, so good quality laser cut goodies here, so all that such like. They do not skimp on quality on their laser cutting. I mean, it's good stuff. So, all right, set all that aside. We're going to roll out the plans here. I would prefer that the plans be rolled rather than folded. However, the flip side of that is they're trying to fit everything into standardized boxes. This is a discussion I have with Dave Ziegler over at Freedom Flight, because he has some similar things he does where he gets real creative with how he designs his kits to fit into a particular size box and all that such like. So anyway, I didn't even check to see if the wire for the landing gear is in there. I assume it is, although we're probably not going to use it, because I'm going to do the same thing I did with the Senator where it's removable landing gear, because there are 4 of us now who have model airplanes in this house, and we have a lot of them, and they take up a lot of space. And I don't want landing gear taking up space, you know, in a giant box. I want it in a little box. Anyway, here are your plans, and now the fun begins. So, what I'm going to do is take a piece of parchment paper, because I'm going to start on the fuselage, and we're going to lay this out. In terms of flyability of this airplane, I want to be very clear from the start that much like the Senator, the flyability of this airplane is not in question, nor will it ever be. The Keelcraft brand is known for airplanes that fly. So if you're looking for a beginner's rubber model that will fly, go to outerzone.co.uk and download some things from Keelcraft, the non-scale ones. Don't start with scale models. Never start with scale models. Start with the non-scale ones. Download one of those, the Ajax, the Achilles, the Gipsy, Senator. There's a predecessor to the Senator, I think it's called the Mercury. Pick one of those and build it. They're awesome. They will fly. Period. And I hid my straight pins from myself. Ah, straight pins. So what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but the bottom line is take some straight pins. You need to have a nice big flat building board. This is a particularly large airplane, so you need to think about how you're gonna set this thing up. So this is a 40-inch airplane, and in radio control airplane world, that's not a big airplane. In rubber power airplane world, that's huge. And the issue is that when you have a plane this size, you need to think about how you're going to store it, how you're going to wind it, where you're going to fly it. Flying fields are becoming a major issue. So for those of you that are in radio control world, you can help the rest of us out by helping us find big fields. Now when you think that a field is big, let's say Fury Field at Flight Fest. To those of you in the radio control world, that place seems enormous. To us in the free flight world, that's mediocre. Not even mediocre. It's kind of, maybe we can use it. Maybe we can fly small things, you know, like little dime scale planes. This airplane, flown at full power, in calm weather, will outfly Fury Field. So up there at Flight Fest, this airplane is like a caged lion. So you'll want to help out the guys that made the hobby for you back in the 30s and whatnot, and so on. Find us big fields, really big fields. All right, so I've got this pinned out. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to select out some wood. So I want the 1/8 inch square sticks, of which there are enough of them in here to get this done. You do have to be careful because most kits like this, they supply you with, they supply you with enough to get it done and not a whole lot of extra. Now, strip wood is very difficult to grade. You can't cut it the same as you can sheet wood. So there's a lot of compromises in quality. Ripmax tries to do a good job with that, but the bottom line is that you need to test these strips for stiffness. So this is a fairly stiff one. I mean, you can feel, just gently flex these across, back and forth. I don't know if that one's stiff enough. You can actually put
weights on these to see. I feel pretty good. We need enough really hard pieces of this wood to make the longerons, which are the longitudinal members in our fuselage. That one's good. Close. The rest of the airplane can be built out of fairly light wood. Those longerons need to be from the hardest stuff you can get. This is a Wakefield that is designed to be flown with a tremendous amount of power. And we will try to get some footage in which we show off the capabilities of this airplane. I cannot make any promises to the extent of that, because I don't get access to big fields anymore. We'll try putting a timer or something on there and short detaining this, or something of that nature, so that you can see what it's like to fly these airplanes the way they were intended to be. We may have enough. Oh yeah! I got one of those. That's stiff ones. They don't show slices here, so you've got to kind of guesswork it out. So with that, that's not particularly stiff. That'll do for that. Alright,
So, to here, to here, to here. That's enough to build your fuselage out. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to slide these down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 of each of these uprights all the way back here. After that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut these lengthwise bits and so on. And so I'm going to get set up for that. I'll show a little bit of it and then we'll just move on. Okay, so we're going to just start up at the front and go from there. So I'll show you how this is done. So we've got this diagonal piece. Two, and then we'll move on to the upright here. Got tape on here, masking tape, sticky side up. It does not stick to the parchment paper, so I have pins at each end to hold it in place. I have been building rubber models using this method of pre-cutting everything for about 15 years now, and it is the way to get this done. Alright, that's enough of that for y'all. So we have all of these parts cut out. I've got just about everything cut to size, so yeah, so we're good there. Cut the longerons a little oversized, even have the front half ones. There is a splice joint marked here. I did not see that before. And then there's a doubler that's shown. What I have not done is I have not shown, oh boy, it just got real. We has is a problem. So the plans are marked wrong, and here's why. These are full-length longerons. I have not touched these, and the splice joint is shown to be right there. So the question is there space, any way, shape, or form? And nope, not happening. Ruddy-duddy. I will now run short on 1/8 balsa somewhere else in this build because, yeah. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. Stack these two on top of each other, which was kind of what I was going to try to show y'all anyway. So this gives us an exact join because we've cut these together on that diagonal. So I'm going to set those aside. And then I'm going to cut another pair of these. As well, but maybe I can make it work. Alright, so I'm going to use CA glue for this step. And we will need CA accelerator. In the meantime, get this pair together as well. Alright. So that's got that sorted. Now, here's where the fun bit gets. You have to curve these longerons right here. And they're not going to want to take that bend real well. So we're going to soak those with water here in a few minutes. First, though, I'm going to lay in everything that's upright here. So we'll go ahead. Actually, we're going to start up at the top. And I did cut these long. Now, I like to do something a lot of modelers will cringe at. I go ahead and lay everything in here because I'm going to build these guys exactly on top of each other at the same time. Guys out. I'm using Signet, probably not the ultimate choice of glue, but I've got a huge tube of it, and I figure I'll use it all up before I start using up Duco, which is the glue I should actually be using. Now, I know a lot of guys use all sorts of fancy jigs to get things exactly straight on their builds. And I see that, and I see then this perception that that's what you need to build good airplanes. The reason I am specifically not using any of that stuff is to show you you don't need it. All it does is slow you down. And your planes, honestly, do not look any better for all the mass expenditure of wasted time that does not get you anything except fewer airplanes in your life. So I have a number of people I constantly have to remind that perfection is the enemy of success. If you spend all your time trying to get perfect airplanes, you never get the flying experience that you want to have. And then you sit around frustrated, why can't I get my airplanes to fly like everybody else? Because you spent so much time building, you didn't have any time to fly. That's why. Okay, we now have enough in here that we can start looking at laying in the longerons. However, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and pop out these F1 parts for the front of the fuselage. That way, they are already ready to go. Wet out my longerons. One thing I want to do is not get my plans wet, and parchment paper is in fact porous. So I've got some saran wrap that I'm going to lay in right here. Now I can put my longerons in. Alright, pop this guy loose, throw some glue. There. I don't even know where I just threw that pin, but it's somewhere. So now we can go back and we can start dropping these guys in here. I do want to show you one last thing before I do that. do this, you start actually being able to remove some of the pins because the structure starts kind of holding itself in place here. Now, we need to go ahead and throw these doublers in here. And this is just to show you there is an order to these types of things. And now I have a box leaning against me. I mean, honestly, I don't know how I work in conditions like these. If you see a giant glider come smashing through my head right now, you'll understand that it's simply a cross that I bear. So far I'm still alive. She'll probably wait till after I stop filming and upload this video to kill me. But I'm still going to point out that she threw a box at my butt. Okay, so fuselage is all laid out. While it's being laid out, or while it's drying out, whatever, I'm going to put wings together. And yeah, this one's hanging out in open space. Genius, right? Oh well. I'm going to cut this guy to size. One problem I have is I've got this piece, I've got this one over here that I chopped a little off of for a doubler on the bottom of the fuselage. There's supposed to be 4 of these. There are 3. You need the 3rd one for the trailing edge of the rudder. Whoopsies. Whoopsies. Alright. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these guys to size, and then we're going to we're going to notch them and everything per the plans. I'm doing them together just to get a slightly better result. Alright, gonna have to pause for a second so I can get a pin to mark that. Alright, I taped these together with Scotch tape to hold them steady, and then just gonna mark them all. Okay. Now, this part is a little more interesting because there's actually an inset here. So we're going to use razor blade to cut in here. Now, I made a spar notching tool. This guy right here. So, a piece of wood. I don't know how wide this is. It's whatever it is for the how far the ribs are designed to go in there. I cracked the rib out and test fitted it, and then I glued a piece of sandpaper to the top of that. So then I can go to each of these rib stations. And this may take a little while. There we go. A notch right there of the correct depth for the ribs and the correct width. So, yeah, I get to make a whole bunch of those. Okay, so I have my trailing edges cut apart. And now before I do any assembly, I'm going to go ahead and plane these to a triangular cross, or yeah, roughly the trailing edge profile. There we go. Trailing edges are shaped. Now we're doing leading edges. Got the bottom of both leading edges done. Now I'm doing the tops. Profile shows up, but we've got nice curvature here, a little bit upsweep, all that cool stuff. Now repeat it again. Alright, let's get this part of the party going. P2 goes back here. It is a dihedral keeper. Not sure how critical this is, but sticking it in anyway because it says to. I say that because I strongly doubt the original plans have it. actually a little short too. Oh well. And 1/8 inch square bottom spar. Oh, not 1/8. What was that? Oh, yeah. I should have put parchment paper over this too, but laziness prevails. And there is supposed to be a dihedral gauge for this. And the smart person would use the dihedral gauge. Question is, can I? Oh, there's a dihedral template. Cool beans. Perfect. And W1. Nope, W11. And yeah, this is extending literally off the board. So I don't know if you can even see down here, but bottom line is I'm holding it kind of in midair. It's super duper awkward. Plan B. Hit it with CA. Problem solved. And yada yada yada. Drop your spar in afterwards, and dihedral keepers, blah blah blah. Okay, so left wing and right wing are framed out. Stab and rudder I'll do later. It's more the same. The spars and whatnot are cut long out here and here. I'll trim those to size after removing these from the board. Then we'll add the wooden wingtips out there, which is a basically a carving exercise, honestly. And then we'll join them up for the dihedral. And then the wings will be done, other than the light sanding. Actually, more than the light sanding, because the rib heights taper as you go out here on the front, so the leading edge is going to actually have to be tapered down. A little annoying to do, but I guess it'll make more efficient airfoil. Who knows? Don't know if the stab is the same way. We'll find out. And the rudder is just a very basic assembly. Same with the sub rudder. So we'll do that before we come back on, more than likely. Fuselage is long since dry, so at some point we'll crack it loose from there and begin building it out. Becoming a bit messy here. We have wings and tail surfaces and all that, and somewhere under there is a building board. Somewhere. Oh, maybe there is a building board down there. Okay, starting to wonder. Oof, it's a mess. Balsa hair. So, pulling a few things up here, just gonna show you a little bit of my finishing practices on flying surfaces before we proceed a whole lot further. So, on the wing, I actually shaped leading edges and whatnot before assembly, and then finished everything after it was all built out. I glued the wing tips on afterwards, after trimming the spars and whatnot down to length, and then so I glued them on and then shaped them after gluing them on. Your horizontal tail on this airplane, which I have so skillfully glued to the paper, the plans, everything else in between, despite my best efforts to the contrary. It's like I'm 12 again, or 16 again, or 25 again. I don't learn. I shaped the trailing edge, did not shape everything else yet. So let's see, for this I would take my razor plane, shape these tips down. They are laser cut as far as the outline, so that's pretty nice. Plane the leading edge, and then go to light sanding. So we'll give you a quick example of that. I've got to make the mess anyway, might as well show it to you. Trailing edge, due to this being kind of a scarf join for the trailing edges here, does have to be finished afterwards. You could finish it before. And then basically we just clean this down until it's the same thickness as the tip rib here. Same right here. Plane it down to so it follows the profile of the tip rib all the way down here, which means you're cutting into the leading edge in this case. Fairly close. Same story on this side. Or you can do that. Vastly much more entertaining if you do that. Because, I mean, breaking planes is what we do, right? There we go. So I'll come back. I don't know, I need to come back to that now. And now we can shape that leading edge. And so here we're tapering it down because the rib height tapers out here. And then you would do the same thing. I'm not going to show the rest of this on camera. You guys are probably bored out of your minds already. I'm going to have to do a similar treatment here on the horizontal stab trailing edge thickness, because some rib height tapering here as well.
I'm going to stick my drill bit there. I got plastic wrap stuff, not fuselage. Sometimes. Okay, so I've got a few uprights that ended up in the wrong position. I'll deal with those at a later time. For now, I'm going to trim the lunge runs all to size here. You could realistically wait until even later in the game to do this. It's just that it's going to start bugging me soon, so I might as well get it done now. And yes, I'm doing it on my sanding block, so this razor blade is basically about to be toast. This just encourages you to replace your razor blades often, because they need to be replaced often. Now, let's see, get showing leading full thickness there for back of fuselage. Not a bad idea. We'll go along with it. So, that means we'll just split it apart now. We'll start at the front or at the back. And the goal is just to run the razor blade in between here. And that one has popped. Oopsies. That one's the problem child. We'll deal with it in a little bit. We'll deal with it last.
Alright, so I fixed everything after I got these apart. Actually had a couple of uprights that had slipped. That's just because the plans did not lay down real well, so things weren't staying put. And so what? A lot of people spend a lot of time trying to combat all of that, and I think it's kind of silly most of the time. Stuff is going to crack loose, stuff is going to do weird things, and you just deal with it. You can always go and crack joints loose after the fact and reglue them. So I have one fuselage side pinned up. Normally what I would do is pop out a horizontal crosspiece and stick it in here with glue and then shove this up the side and put a pin in there. However, the plans for this airplane show to use these formers to do that. And so those drop in like so while you drop the glue in your lap, just like that. One thing I will mention is the plans actually show how you can do this holding it in your hands instead of pinning it down. Most of you will not want to do that. Most of you will want to do the perfect way of doing this. I don't know, words, they're hard. So, put this guy with glue on one side and on the other. Caleb, not now. Don't do that. So send us both tumbling in the plane. And this one they say to face those forward. Okay, whatever. I don't think it really makes a difference. Caleb, no. I know. And you can in a minute. Now, if this had been a fuselage that did not have these formers, I would simply put glue on the end of a former that goes at this, or sorry, a cross piece that goes at the bottom here, slide it in, butt up the second fuselage side against it, hit it with straight pins, same thing over here, or you could pin it in place and then use thin CA, variety of options, and then drop in cross pieces up at the top and continue on. Now, what we need to do next is close up the front and back of the fuselage, and then we can work our way in, out, what have you. There are V notches in the front wood. I guess we can go ahead and drop those in so you can see. I'm about to pop a whole lot more parts out of here anyway. And one of these takes X, one takes Z. Oh, okay. There we go.
This case, I've got a little dab of glue interfering there. Still interfering there. And we'll drop the rest of these in here. And then you can also watch me unscrew the rest of them.
So these are the front pieces. And Alright, so that's the basic structure in here, and now you can drop all the cross pieces in. I will probably pull this off of the board and do it that way. A lot of people get scared you're going to have a banana happen then, where the fuselage gets twisted or bent or whatever. If it does, remember that the purpose of the fuselage is to hold the rubber motor and keep the wing and tail and propeller separated from each other. As long as they're lined up, who cares about the fuselage? So I've got these formers up here installed, and now we need to install the rearmost one. I put a cross piece right across here in front of this former, the rectangular former, so that this kind of like instrument panel thing that goes right here has something to lay down against. Otherwise, over time, that'll have a tendency to break loose under stresses and heavy flying loads and whatnot when you are mishandling the plane and all that. So, we're going to lay this down so that the two intersect correctly. There we go. Alright. That glue will take a minute to fully harden, which will be very useful. There we go. So we've got them to come together there. Perfect. Just like that. Now, the next thing is to grab some of these 1/16 inch strips, and we'll start at the middle one here. So I'm going to bevel the back of this, slide it all the way in underneath the little instrument panel dash, whatever you want to call it. It should come all the way out front. We'll hold off doing anything with it out front. Don't glue yourself in there. I'm going to show you one more of these. What you do is just do that same thing, beveling these around so they kind of lock in there. And you can get real creative with getting the perfect fit. This is an endurance model, it is not a scale model, so the extent to which I want utter perfection, chuck it in a thermal and smile. That one off and just continue that on. Alright, so got everything in here. I sanded a little bit, carried in real nice. Now we've got to do up front here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack all of these off more or less flush with the front. Actually, maybe I'm not. Nah, never mind. Basically what I need to do is back cut most of these, get them to attach down somehow. So basically I'm just cutting out from the bottom of them. And there is sanding required as part of this. And I did a terrible job on that one, and that's going to make it a mess, and it's going to require me to go back and fix it. Better to cut off not enough than too much. And I cut off too much. What else is new? That one's not coming off at all. Come on. There we go. And there we go. And they're all down there. Now we're going to just come in here with sandpaper and clean it all up. There we go. So that is mostly sanded down flush on the end there. Now the next thing is we are going to need to address sanding back in here, because these formers, when you lay the tissue down, they poke through the formers and it looks terrible. You just want smooth tissue across there. So we're going to sand in there and clean those up. Alright, so I've got my wing pinned here with 3 5/8 shim under it. And a very angry child who's ticked off at life. And so what I'm going to do, normally I would actually use CA for this. However, since there are so many intricate things interlocking in here, I'm doing it this way. There are several things that you want to address on an airplane like this that's going to be under the load of a tremendous amount of rubber. And one of those is studying how forces travel through your airframe. So the primary load that your fuselage is going to see is the tension of the rubber motor, particularly on an airplane like this. This is a Wakefield and is designed to handle a massive amount of power. About 24 strands of 1/8 is kind of the nominal for sport flying. For contest flying, 28 to 30. It's a lot of power. That means this fuselage could be under as much as 30 pounds of tension pushing between right here and right here. Now the tissue that you put on the fuselage takes up most of that load in terms of the torsional aspect. As you can see, I can twist this right now. Once I put tissue on it, it becomes tremendously strong in that regard. But we still have to deal with the tension issue. And I bring that all up to say there is a very key weak spot in this airframe. And it doesn't show up real well, but the bottom line is if you press from here back to here, there is an issue here, and you can visibly, if you look real closely, you can see there is a point in this fuselage that gives a little bit. And as this is softened up by rubber lubricant being thrown in it, under humidity, etc., that flex will increase. So, have this location right here, has beefy wood, there are doublers inside that are installed per the plans. This is not going to give way. So the load is going to be transferred from this member up through these longerons. It's going to be transferred from our nose block on a nice big force plate here back through the longerons. Vertical pieces don't matter. Now down here I have a steady flow of force. Right here I have a discontinuity into a vertical piece that resists purely through bending load. The weakest possible configuration. Now, there are some scenarios. Let's say I had a diagonal right here to transfer that load out. That would completely delete that issue. The most efficient manner, however, is to run a diagonal up here so that that load is now transferred at a shallow angle right up into this longeron and it flows back. So I get this type of an arrangement. Not as efficient as having a smooth curve all the way back, but this is pretty, so we do it. There have been a number one of the things you have to consider when you look at the Wakefield rules, there is no requirement for this airplane to have a cabin. There was never a requirement ever for Wakefields to have cabins. However, you will notice in the rules, in the winning designs over the years, a huge number of them had the fancy cabins. Winning airplanes, extremely high performing winning airplanes. In fact, the Wakefield short kit that we produce has a cute little cabin. And it's the highest performing of all the Wakefields I have built. That being said, it's not necessary, and if you're designing for true purebred performance, you'll not really have a cabin. You can integrate things so you can have a cabin appearance there, but you really want to concentrate on the aerodynamic aspect of this. What kind of gives opportunity for the cabin is the fact that the Wakefield rules used to be what's called length squared divided by 100. So at the thickest point, the fattest point in the fuselage, the area, the cross-sectional area there must be greater than the length of the fuselage squared divided by 100. And so that's where we get the fuselage volume rule. By the way, now, when I press on this, it has, I can feel there is no give anymore. This transfers the load beautifully. And now, that part of things is done. Moving on to the next step. We want landing gear. I have bent one-piece landing gear from wire that I have in my collection. The kit shows you to build the wire in 2 pieces, run it up through here, and bind it across the top. That's cool. As I've said in the introduction, I want mine removable. So I have sized this landing gear to fit up in here. Get back here, you. So I squeeze it together, latch it up in there. It looks cool. Looks pretty. Yeah. I can. There's actually just enough friction in there. I can set it on there and admire how awesome my Gipsy looks. But let's take that out. I have carved or pulled out, made 2 pieces of wood that I can sit in between here. By the way, this is another one of those vertical points. So I've got that big landing gear. This is a heavy airplane. It hits the ground. That landing gear wants to be flexed forward, which wants to ram that upright forward, and it blows out the upright. I've had that happen on a number of occasions, and that's why I have put these diagonals in here. So we're adding some structure to this airplane. We're adding it in very key locations. Goal still is that hopefully the finished weight of the airplane will be under 5 ounces, and we can put about 3 ounces of rubber in it to bring it up to 8 ounces. That being said, I'll probably never fly this airplane in competition, but I like to pretend that I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this guy in place here, smearing wet super glue all over a bunch of things that don't need it. And get you squished down there. Landing gear does need to angle forward a little bit per the plans. Close enough. Unhand me, plane. Now what I want to do is space, so I've got, that's going to be my back plate. I'm going to glue another piece in ahead of it, parallel to it, 1/16 inch forward, and I'm trying to decide, I think, for lack of a better option, nope, Caleb has a broken tailplane sitting over here. Perfect. I'll use that as my 1/16 inch spacer. So, and you can hear my wife scoffing at me in the background. She's going to tell my son on me. He would probably be quite upset. Just screwed it up. Alright. Now we will hit that with some glue. Now, you're about to find out that there is a point in structure here where I am paranoid. It's because I don't want to have to rip this airplane open to do this particular repair, because I've done it on multiple occasions and it really kind of stinks. So, I am putting some doublers in here. I seriously, I'm not kidding, I do not want that landing gear assembly to come loose. That's why I like another thing I like about the Wakefield that we kit, kit is a generous term. It's a short kit. It uses a skid underneath. So it's very, very strong by comparison. Unfortunately, the dethermalizer arrangement is not so friendly. That airplane was designed before the advent of dethermalizers, and setting up proper dethermalizer on it is next to impossible. So you have to do a wing dethermalizer, which is a pain in the neck to rig. but it can be done. Alright, so got that all installed, and now my landing gear, I can latch in there, and it holds in pretty good. If it ever loosens up, I can widen it out a little bit so it fits with some more tension, or I can put a little hook on each side and run a rubber band up there, and that'll hold it in place. But there it is. Also, my wing is now dry, so we can actually start to get a look at what this beauty is supposed to look at, and be reminded that I may have forgotten the gusset that goes back here. But yeah, and then we set the tail on it. And that looks absolutely epic. This is the point where I mention I have wanted one of these since I was 13, and now I've got one. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Josh Finn. This is Hope. We are J&H Aerospace.
If you like this video, hit the like button.
Also, how about subscribe to our channel and check out jhaerospace.com for new free flight products and all of the tooling that you'll need to build them.
Thanks for watching.